Welcome to Lone Star Gun Talk, everybody. I am your host, as always, Derek Wills, and I am glad that you're here. If you're wondering about why my voice sounds different, it's because I got the crud. I pretty much have everything that everybody else seems to be getting, and I'm feeling a bit under the weather. So bear with me the best you can, and I will try and get through this, and we're going to do it together. So, starting off the news of the day, it seems that a Texas Republican, and I use that term rather loosely, is calling for gun control in the wake of the massacre from last Sunday. He penned an open letter to the Dallas News, and he's up in Dallas. His name is Jason Villalba. He's in District 114. If he is your state rep, I would highly recommend considering voting for somebody else because he is no friend to gun rights. Long story short, in this open letter, which I'm not going to read all of it, I'm not going to read most of it. He's calling for a commission, and he says, "Today I am respectfully asking that the governor, the lieutenant governor, and the Speaker of the House of Texas to impanel a blue ribbon commission on gun violence in Texas. The primary charge of the commission shall be to determine the root causes of gun violence in Texas and to propose legislation to address these issues to be adopted in the 86th legislature." After a couple of bleeding heart paragraphs, he says, in all caps, "There needs to be common sense gun control reform in Texas. If we expect a change in the outcomes, we must consider all the inputs. The time is now to do something, whatever that may be." You know, it boils down to basically this. I said this a few weeks ago, but sometimes there is no problem. There is a fabricated problem, and that's what homicide is. And that's not to downplay the tragedy that somebody goes through when they prematurely lose a loved one. But what it means is that no matter what you do, there is evil in this world, and evil will find a way. Timothy McVeigh did not use a single firearm, and he killed 168 people and wounded over 600 others in Oklahoma City in 93. And not one firearm was used. You had the 9/11 hijackers used box cutters and airplanes. You had the guy in New York with a Home Depot truck. You had the Boston Marathon bombers who used pressure cookers. I am outright convinced that if somebody somehow actually banned firearms in this country and found a way to confiscate 100% of all of the firearms in this country, gun violence would still be a quote-unquote problem. That's because criminals don't follow laws, hence the word criminal. If they did, then simply making homicide illegal would suffice, because nobody would break that law. But homicide is illegal, and the reason is because it establishes a punishment for infringing upon the rights of another human being, namely their right to live. And when that wasn't enough, they wanted to go after the means of doing it. Well, the problem is that possession does not constitute a crime. It shouldn't anyway. I mean, I know it does, but for the sake of argument, I'm talking about what should be. Me possessing a select fire M4 with no NFA paperwork whatsoever is not indicative of my motives. I just have it. I could merely want it just to have it because I believe it's my right, or I could be a malicious person who wants to try and shoot up a concert, for instance. But possession itself is in no way indicative of what is in somebody's heart, what their motives are going to be. Do you want to know the answer to the problem? The answer is to take it upon yourself to protect yourself and your loved ones. Have a sense of duty to do that and to protect your fellow Texans. By trying to further regulate firearms, which I am in favor of no regulation whatsoever, but in order to regulate those, you're not going to have the outcome that you're hoping for. All that's going to do is take away my right and your right to possess a firearm that we would like to have. And that is protected under the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution. There is gun violence in this country. There is gang violence in this country. Drive-by shootings that happen with fully automatic weapons, even though you and I know that they were banned in '86. They're incredibly hard to get now, and yet they're still illegally obtained somehow. You have people who steal firearms, shave off the serial numbers. That's an illegal transfer right there. And theft, to be completely honest. You have all of these people who break all of these laws to carry out all of their malicious acts, and you expect them to follow the new laws that you want to implement. Well, that's not how that works. They're just going to continue to break them. So what further laws should be implemented? How can you possibly think that you are going to have a positive outcome from implementing new laws? It's not going to happen. That's not how any of that works. I've reached out to Representative Villalba to come on the show. I haven't heard a response back. I'm going to keep trying, but I'm not entirely hopeful. I really wish that he would come on and lay out some of his plans, at least. I think that I think that we have a right to know what his plans are, what type of legislation he plans to file and try and push through committee. No law, past, present, or future, would or did stop the shooter in Sutherland Springs. It was already illegal to murder people. It was illegal for somebody with a criminal conviction to possess a firearm. Even though I don't agree with that law. I've told you that many times. I've made no bones about it. But he also escaped a mental institution, something else that should have prevented him from possessing a firearm. And he lied on his 4473. If they were somehow able to prevent him from getting firearms, there is all likelihood he would have found another way to do it. He probably either would have stolen his firearms or maybe he would have made homemade explosives. They're not that hard to make. The Anarchist Cookbook is available for anybody to download, and they can do whatever they want with it. It just is the way things are. Evil will find a way, no matter what laws are on the books. If you live in Representative Villalba's district, you need to find another candidate. You need somebody to run against him, and you need to support that person, assuming they are better on this topic and others than he is. And if you're curious, also, Tim McGraw and Faith Hill are also calling for gun control because they matter, right? Their opinion matters. But I digress. There are a lot of people out there that want to put in their 2 cents on this whole topic because that's what we do in this country now. And to be honest, it really boils down to one thing. Stephen Williford was a good guy with a gun, and he was able to stop the shooter from taking more lives. He had the exact same evil-looking AR platform that the shooter had, and he used that tool to help save lives. The media seems to be trying to bury that fact for obvious reasons, and it really doesn't matter because the facts don't change, even if they are ignored. But you also have, at the federal level, Feinstein has introduced a bill that would ban assault weapons, quote unquote. And John Cornyn is going to allow a discussion on this. This is basically the times that the Texas Turncoats are showing their true colors. Jason Villalba actively calling for gun control. You have, John Cornyn, who is our number 2 senior senator in the entire Senate. He's the number 2 guy. And he's saying that, we'll allow discussion on this. And he's also filing legislation to further make illegal the non-reporting of crimes by the Air Force, because it's already illegal to not report it, and he's going to make it more illegaler because, I don't know. I haven't read his piece of legislation. That's just what his press release said on the subject. And whenever it does finally come out, I will read it, and I will let you know. It's more of the same crap. And more of the same crap is going to have more of the same outcome. There is not going to be anything that's going to prevent homicides from happening. There's not going to be anything to prevent mass shootings from happening. I can't say it enough. Evil will find a way to do what it does. And no law is going to prevent that from happening. Until you can legislate away evil in people's hearts and enforce it, people will continue to do evil things. And not all people. Very, very few people, as a matter of fact. The thing is, there are very few actual homicides in this country, relatively, if you look at it from a purely statistical standpoint. You have 320 million people in this country, and you have about 11,000 homicides committed with a firearm every year. That's nothing if you make it into a percentage. It's very, very, very minimal. Even with things like Las Vegas. Even with things like Sutherland Springs. Hell, what happened in Las Vegas happens on a monthly basis in Chicago alone. It's not... Yes, it is absolutely tragic. But it's not a huge problem. And making tougher gun laws isn't going to change that. It's not going to have any effect, any noticeable effect whatsoever, because it's not going to have any effect at all. People will kill people, which is why I carry, which is why you should carry, which is why you should encourage your friends and neighbors to carry. And that way, you can be an immediate responder should the need arise. Whenever seconds count, police are anywhere from 5 to 12 minutes away. To return fire, however, only takes a matter of a second and a half, at most. And so which would you rather have? Would you rather hide and wait for, 5 to 12 minutes? Or would you rather be able to disarm the situation in a matter of seconds and possibly save lives? Or your life, if that's the only one in jeopardy. People need to think about these things, and I know that you do. That's why you listen. But this is the kind of things that I wish that the left would understand. Anyway, that's going to do it for me. I am going to nurse myself back to health, and until next Sunday, Lone Star Gunners, arm yourself with knowledge and share the ammo.